I think that the startup of this mill is analogous with an old-fashioned harvest. It took a village. So many people pitched in. There's no one person or entity that made it happen. It was a collective effort by this community to create something that they all wanted and dreamed of. The key thought leaders, of course, were the Washington State University Bread Lab and the Port of Skagit that had been talking for some time about how to add value to agriculture here and identified wheat as an opportunity because it had been grown historically as a rotation crop that most farmers just sold into the commodity at a loss, but they saw the benefits of soil health and disease control through those best practices. There were local farmers that were part of the planning process. There were bakers and bakeries that had experimented with the different wheat varieties that were non-commodity that were being grown here and had proven and experienced the fact that you can make better flour with some of these identity preserved grains that are milled fresh locally. For me, there was this intersection where I had spent my life working. I'd farmed. I'd worked as economic development executive, trying to revitalize natural resource-based economies. I'd worked for the Nature Conservancy for a decade on market-based strategies to align food production and farming. And when I turned 50, I don't think it was a midlife crisis, but I had this realization that, in the next 50 years of my life, I wanted to help build a more regenerative local food system that could help spark a movement and interest in rebuilding local grain economies and farm economies. And so I was working as a contractor for an investor interested in regenerative food systems. And this opportunity came across my plate, and I was asked to evaluate the business opportunity. And when I saw that it was really one of the last product categories and supply chains to go local or regional, and the tremendous opportunity to create system change and bring good things to the community, I raised my hand and was all in. Hopefully I caught everybody who was involved. Oh, the other key partners, of course, were Tom and Sue Hunton at Camas Country Mill, who are co-founders of this mill, and who had diversified their family farm by adding some stone mills to make whole grain flour, who really were not only my mentors and partners, but some of the thought leaders in the early days, even before the Bread Lab, who were looking at this opportunity in wheat. By engaging in a for-profit business where there's this whole army of local, regional, national participants, supporters, experts that wanted to help us get the company started, we moved at a lightning pace that I have never experienced before. And to this day, I'm still having a hard time keeping up because of that community effort, the community support. And I speak of our community both here and now all around the country that's supporting us. It's really propelled us to where we are today. And I think will continue to help us grow when and where we decide to grow. But it's really a manifestation of community and alignment and being really clear about our values and vision and sticking to them. I just had to learn a whole new business. There's not a lot of millers in this world or milling textbooks. We have one milling school in Kansas that trains people to work in the large industrial mills. So we had to reinvent a business model and a system. And this is a complex business where you're managing supply chains, people, equipment, distribution, and sales. I think some people believe it's a simple business, but it's really not. And then you throw in Mother Nature, who controls the weather, and you've got more complexity. But I think, some of the key things that were challenging initially was a lot of people thought we were pazzo, which is crazy in Italian. And they're like, flour? What do you mean? It's just ubiquitous white stuff. It's cheap. You can get it anywhere. It's all the same. And so attracting investment capital was a challenge. We had a lot of impact investors and friends and family who believed in the opportunity, but we're also managing risk. And so we had to go to a lot of people and raise money in small increments to get started. And it was kind of hand in mouth for the first 4 years, even though we were growing 28% a quarter without a marketing budget. I mean, it was all word of mouth. It was and community that helped us generate the sales. And so that just from a logistical and time point of view was very hard and at times very frustrating and scary. So now, unfortunately, it took a pandemic for people to realize the importance of local food systems and supply chains, and also the better quality products that you can get, whether it's flour or blueberries or beer or broccoli, how much better your food tastes and how much healthier it is when you buy local and how it supports the local economies and farmers. People finally understand that now on a larger scale. And so and then we've also seen how it makes our community more resilient. So, we were selling direct to consumers during the panic buying days. And you could see a COVID video that we produced where we were selling 18 to 20,000 pounds of flour every Friday. And people were driving here from Idaho, Montana, Oregon, southern and eastern parts of Washington to get flour because they couldn't get it in their grocery stores. And so one of our hypotheses in the beginning that not only would a mill make the community more healthy and prosperous, but it would make us more resilient. And that proved itself out, not only with feeding our community. We were sending truckloads of flour to Seattle, to the food banks here. And then when we sift off some of our bran to make our European-style bread flour, that goes into a feed silo. And the feed companies couldn't get what they call mill run through the commodity supply chains because they were all broken down or out. And so two of the local feed companies here were picking up our mill run every week, and it enabled them to make feed for the livestock in a 3 or 4 county region to keep the animals alive, to keep the farmers in business. And so with all of these aha moments for people and understanding, well, these systems aren't just about being a foodie or gourmet food. These are systems that make us more healthy, prosperous, and resilient. And so now all of a sudden, all the investment, the institutional investors and the family offices that we've been talking to in the past that were like, yeah, we like food systems, but we just want to invest in forward-facing brands, but not infrastructure, are now coming around and saying, wow, if you've got a plan for growing, please let us know because we want to invest. And so there's been this incredible shift in awareness and more competition, which is actually good. Access to capital, access to expertise, access to, we've all had to learn this business. So skilled labor needed. And still today now, one of our biggest challenges is hiring more people because of the national labor shortage. In terms of the production supply, people are like, oh, you're having a hard, the limiting factor here isn't farmers that want to produce a healthier crop and get paid better for it. The limiting factor here is infrastructure and distribution. Storage, we're very fortunate. There's a granary about 6 miles down the road from us that we outsource our storage here. They do all of our storage, drying, cleaning, and they deliver the clean grain to the mill. Most commodity granaries are not scaled to do identity preservation. or even organic in some cases, or have protocols and equipment that will meet modern food safety and SQF standards, which we are actually a third-party certified mill now, which has been another huge challenge that I forgot about, because we still have to play the same game in terms of food safety as the big mills do. And it's been incredibly expensive, and I can show you the two binders that are 12 inches thick. So back to the infrastructure. So we were very fortunate to have Knudsen Granary here that we could work with. But we've also had to be very creative with some of the farmers on their on-site storage. And we're actually now putting in some small Meridian silos, which are smooth-walled food-grade bins that will help us be more efficient in how we handle our grain coming in from the granary and going into the mill. So it's still evolving. What we see in terms of the infrastructure and our business efficiencies and bottom line is, in the future, it would be much more efficient and cost effective to have a turnkey mill where the granary and the mill are all co-located. And you could, because even though we charge a premium for our flour, we pay our staff living wages, we pay the farmers higher than above commodity. And so our costs are higher, and anything we could do to create efficiencies is going to help our economic viability. So in the future, we're looking at a turnkey system that has the mill, the granary, as well as a lab and test kitchen all co-located. So we could do everything in-house, and not only have much more less turnaround time in some of our testing, cleaning, decision-making regarding our grain, but also real-time opportunities to test, bake, and bring bakers here to get their hands in the dough. Because that's the other key thing, is we found that once we got bakers and chefs to put their hands in the dough and taste it, they became a customer. But we haven't always had a place to do that was convenient. So there's probably three things, folks, to summarize what we're hearing. One is flavor. They haven't experienced breads and pastas and pizzas before with the kind of flavor that they are experiencing with our flour. And we're not just getting it from the professional bakers. One of the aha moments for us during the pandemic panic buying was the home baker was coming up and buying 50-pound bags. And we were getting notes on Instagram, and I'm getting emails and texts, and they're like, oh my gosh, I never knew bread could taste so good. You know, my wife or my husband says, never buy white flour again. We're never going back. And so the flavor's been big, the performance, just the color, the aroma, the textures they're getting out of these new types of flour are noticeable and discernible. And then the other is more based on who we are in terms of our culture and values, and that people are just so happy to be able to support a local company that's pro-farmer, that wants to take care of the better care of the earth and the soils. And there's just a tremendous amount of appreciation that we're hearing for what we're trying to do. I think people know we've got a big mountain to climb here, and they're supporting us both from the product standpoint, but also just our different approach. So I think critical aspects of any mill or grain economy is going to be their supply chain first. So go to the land grant university, go to the cooperative extension, go directly to the farmers, really understand what the capacity is to grow, harvest, and store wheat, what kind of wheats and cereal grains can best be grown, because it all starts with the farmer and it starts with the wheat. And then find good partners. Find the partners that can help you with intellectual capital, with financial capital, with networking, um, and bring them all together, because again, it'll be another old-fashioned bartering. And make sure you find the investors, the partners, the staff that are value aligned, because they're the ones that are going to persevere through hard times, and they will have hard times, because it takes a committed group of people to figure this out. And then just strictly from a business end too, know who your customer is going to be. Make sure you're building the right supply chain or creating the right flower product with the customers in your area. And what's been very powerful for us is, we've primarily sold locally and regionally, and it's those customers that lifted us and gave us credibility in the marketplace, and it just went viral. So build that community of customers as well. And then, again, this is our experience here. We've had a great public-private partnership with the port. So if there's an economic development district or a regional council of governments or some type of business incubator where you can get help with from the public side for financing, or to give you provide startup-friendly leases. All those things matter and help, and they also create new partners. So I guess I probably said partners 15 times, but that's for us is find the right partners. Make sure you have a minimal viable product that the market's ready for, and make sure you have the grain supply and the infrastructure to manage it. And that's just kind of like jazz. Just got to riff on it and start playing, because some of it's linear and expected, and some of it you just got to surf and roll with it, especially when Mother Nature comes into play. And we've been pretty open about sharing our experiences, hoping that people don't have to go through the same learning curves we did. And so I think this grain and network is slowly emerging nationally and internationally. I think as much time and effort people can put into researching what other people are doing and learning what worked and what didn't will be helpful as well.